Good morning, good evening, and good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls. You join us on our post-match reactions as we bring to you our thoughts, I guess, if that's the right term, because we all stayed up really late last night. Or it could just be our incoherent ramblings about the UEFA Conference Final as well as the FA Cup, and we will be previewing the UEFA Champions League. Now, before we get into that, I'd like to invite. No, I'm not inviting him. He's already here. I'd like to spotlight our guest here. Roy, how are you feeling?
Feeling great. Yeah, like you said, bit tired, but thank you for having me here. It's a pleasure.
Yeah. And as usual, we have our panelist Farik here. Farik, how are you doing?
Good, guys. So I think most of football is on a break now.
Yeah.
So it's just working towards the UCL final.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Please, I do not want them to win the treble.
Yeah. We'll get to that. We'll be previewing the UCL final after this. Russell's not with us today because Russell's stomach is giving him issues. So yeah, it's a euphemism for something else. But yeah, get well soon, Russell. If you see this. All right, let's jump straight into it, guys. We'll start off with the FA Cup final, right? Manchester United 1, Manchester City 2. Manchester City have completed the second leg of their attempt at the treble. Roy, was the game as close as the scoreline suggested, or did you feel that there was a bit more of a gulf in class?
I thought after scoring within 13 seconds or 12 seconds, I thought Man City might have run away with it before even half-time whistle.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And they had enough chances to do so, I thought. If they tuck another one in, I think it would have been game over by half-time. But somehow Man United got a penalty and got back into the game.
Mm-hmm.
And it made the second half a bit more interesting to watch. But yeah, I think overall Man City still deserve to be FA Cup winners at the end of the day.
Yeah. What do you think, Farid?
I think the thing with Man City is that you could try to shut any of their players down. There's always another one to pop up. And the moment I saw Gundogan on that team sheet, I knew he was going to be the thorn in our side, because he seems to always pop up in all these big matches.
Yeah.
Because if you look back to the match, like Haaland had only one big chance the whole match.
Yeah.
De Bruyne got shunted off to the right a bit. I think Fred was running him off the field at times.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think that's the thing with Man City is that, like, yeah, you can set up to stop all these players, but there's always gonna be another one. It's almost like a hydra. And the score was 2-1, yes, but you have to realize that the two goals Man City scored were, I would consider them pot shots. As great as both strikes were, they were shots from long range.
I disagree about the second one being a great strike.
I mean, it was coming through bodies and like the Gea solid. I think the Gea there's valid criticism against him, but I don't hold either of those goals against him in that cup final.
No.
The first one was just a blinder of a goal taken from outside the box, and the second one was like I said, going through bodies and all that. So. But the scary part was that I've said this before about Man City is that it doesn't seem like they got out of second gear.
Yeah.
I mean, they could have just turned it on to finish off the game, but they decided not to. They know they have another game in hand. They don't want to risk any bodies.
I kind of feel like the speed of the goal, breaking the FA Cup final record, kind of overshadowed the quality of that volley in that first goal. No one ended up talking about the technique and how it just flew into the top right corner. Because he broke the record for being the fastest goal in the FA Cup final. I feel like, maybe Gundogan himself is somewhat underappreciated or undervalued by some players.
Definitely.
You can imagine if Kevin De Bruyne shot that volley into the top corner. Everyone's talking about, wow, player, great technique. But just because it's Gundogan, but for me, he has played just as an important role this season as KDB has. Maybe not in terms of number of assists and similar number of goals, but the captain of the team has been absolutely solid this year.
Shout out actually to our YouTube user Snob TV, who actually took issue with with a couple of our panelists nominating Haaland as their player of the season. He makes the argument that it should be Ilkay Gundogan as a player of the season. But based on this performance and the fact that he's scored multiple goals towards the run into the season.
I think 5 goals in like the last 3 or 4 games for
and several of them have been winners, haven't they? Yeah, except for the Julian Alvarez goal that sealed the title. Well, not sealed the title. It was it was the party piece for the final game of the season against Chelsea.
Yeah.
Right? Gundogan has been an absolute tear last few weeks. And actually, to that point, Roy, agree. Yeah, I think he's massively underappreciated, even by his own fan base, to be honest. And the fact that he is most likely going to be leaving. At the end of the season, it's sad for Man City fans that Gundogan is going to be calling it a day in City colours. But yeah, I will say this though, in disagreement to what you said earlier about how good Gundogan's second goal was, that was one of the jankiest volleys I have ever seen scored in a major cup final. It's the kind that when you play futsal and like someone dinks it over from the corner and you're like, yeah, I'm gonna Zlatan this into the top corner. Right, and then it just bounces off like your shin or your ankle, and then just bobbles over, and then somehow it goes in. Yeah, it felt like that.
But those are like, you rarely see spectacular goals in cup finals. Cup finals are always KGFS, and that seemed like as typical as a cup final.
Paul Konchesky would like a word, or Steven Gerrard for them.
Oh, Gerrard.
Yeah.
Or a certain Gareth Bale bicycle kick in the UCL.
Oh
final.
Yeah. And Zidane 2002. Oh my god, I'm old. Zidane 2002, Hampden Park, left foot, top corner, Roberto Carlos cross.
Yep.
Yeah. All right, better not reminisce too much, but yeah. Sorry, KGFS. So
I think that's the whole vibe of the FA Cup final felt like City didn't want to overstretch themselves, and Man United, I think, conceding a goal after 18 seconds really like shook their faith in their capabilities.
Yeah.
Because if you look at the team, you can't deny that that's, if anything, it's a decent team. I mean, at the end of the day, Man U still beat. They lost 6-3 at the Etihad, but they still beat Man City 2-1 at
Old Trafford. Yeah.
And that shows that Man City isn't infallible. Right, there are ways to beat them, and I think if that goal hadn't come so early in the game, they would be able to settle themselves down, and then they can slowly pick apart at Man City, because there were chances for United. I think they weren't totally locked out of the match.
McTominay hit the bar twice in the closing minutes, so it's not like City were completely locked up, were they? But is this more of a case as Farid mentioned, Roy? City did not get out of second gear. Did you get that sense as well?
I think that's the beauty of any cup finals. It could be nerves, it could just be sometimes a bit of luck that has a role to play. I guess it'd be interesting to ask you guys as United fans, before going into the game, did you guys genuinely feel like you guys have a chance to beat Man City? We talk about one of the, perhaps if they win the treble, this is going to be one of the best teams to be ever played in European football. So going in there as a Man United fan, did you feel like you had a chance? Or do you feel like, okay, we have nothing to lose, and if we do somehow win it, great. But the expectation was that we were going to lose to City today.
Yeah, you start off first.
I definitely gave us a chance, because like I said, on paper, that team, if you were to present it to any other player, like if you take out Man City from the game, if you put that, like, could this team beat any team in the Premier League? And people would most probably say yes. I mean, okay, maybe the only thing missing in that whole equation is that there's no proper striker. But that midfield, I feel, although they're a bit older, can still compete against Man City's. So I wasn't totally faithless in United coming out on top against Man City, but you kind of think like, okay, we have a chance. It's like one of those things like we could do it. It's pretty much typical Man United underdog story. Yeah, that's how I felt going into it.
Isn't that an oxymoron? Typical Manchester United underdog story. Yeah, people would argue that hasn't been true since the 50s. But like to build on that point, like I think plenty of Manchester United fans are very cognizant of where United are right now in their development versus City. City have been the finished article for 2-3 seasons now, right? More or less. And it's just been a matter of refinement, you know? And it took an almighty season from the heavens for Klopp's Liverpool to win that one title. Although we argue that they didn't actually win that title because no one was there to see the presentation, so it didn't happen. Roy's a Liverpool fan, by the way, guys. But the thing is, I think like United fans were probably very aware that like if there was a chance for United in this one, it was slim at best. and that went close to non-existent once City got their first goal. And like, look, if City do the treble, records are meant to be broken, as plenty of people have said over the years, right? Yes, United will always have the distinction of being the very first club to do the treble in England. But hey, at the very least, they're keeping it in Manchester, I guess.
Such a positive way to look at it.
Yeah, I guess so. But here's the thing: like the rivalry between Manchester United and Man City doesn't necessarily have the same edge to it, that say Manchester United and Liverpool has, right? If we go back to say the Munich air disaster in 1958, where Manchester United lost 8 players, right? City actually lent players to Manchester United so that they could finish the season, right? And complete all of their fixtures. And there have been several players who have, back in the amateur era that played for both clubs, sometimes in the same season or across several seasons. So, it's not had that edge, in comparison. So I think United fans, on the whole, you could argue are probably they're not going to be too upset, I guess, if that's the right word, if City do the treble. It would just be like, okay, this is a target that we need to aim for because United are in the middle of a rebuild. So
yeah, I think from just a final point to that, looking at how big of a team City have amassed for themselves, it almost feels like the treble is the bare minimum. If you were to think about it, it's almost like Bayern at a point where you know that they're going to win the Bundesliga, and you know they're definitely going to win the DFB Pokal.
Yeah.
Right.
Or at the very least get into the final or something. Yeah.
Yeah, because Man City have won like 5 of the last 6 EPL titles.
Yep.
Right. So that's almost like Bayern. Bayern have won what, 10? The last 10, last 11?
11 in a row.
Yeah, 11 in a row. So it's
Dortmund, you had one job. One job, Dortmund. One job. Oh God.
That was exciting.
Yeah. So it's almost like you're setting yourself up to always do the treble every season. Like, I think that's the thing that separates United. Like, if Man City do go through to win the treble and Man United winning the treble, nobody gave Man United a chance back then because the team wasn't really as... Yeah, they were a strong team, but they weren't like... like, you wouldn't say like, oh, at the start of the season they're going to win the treble.
Yeah, I mean, Juve, for example, were definitely the favourites in that semi-final. They had Zidane, they had Del Piero, Conte was also playing, Inzaghi. Like, they were the favourites, and United were never the favourites for the treble. So, yeah.
So Man City winning the treble, I think almost every single season is even talked about, oh, can Man City win the quadruple? Can Man City win the quadruple? And like, I feel like them getting the treble is like, okay, you finally completed the bare minimum for your team, which is still a great achievement. But then after you spend all that money and all the development and all that, you bring in pretty much the biggest tactical mind in football, and if you still don't get the treble, and then I feel like overall your project has failed. Yeah.
Name a more iconic duo than Netspend and FSG.
That's another black hole for us to get into, man.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I mean, like, yeah. Okay, we're gonna be beating the treble horse until to death. If we don't move on to the next one. So let's talk about the UEFA Conference League. Congratulations to West Ham, who prevailed 2-1 over Fiorentina. Jared Bowen with the winner in the 89th minute. No, 90th minute. It was 89 something. Yeah, in the 90th minute, of regular time. West Ham in their first European final in over 40 years, winning I think only their second ever European trophy ever.
If I'm not mistaken.
Second ever European trophy ever. Which actually still puts them ahead of Man City in terms of European trophies won. Sorry, just needed to put that dig in there. Guys, thoughts about the game? We'll start with you, Farid. Like, was this, again, same question as before, was this as close a game as the scoreline suggested?
I was in and out while watching this match, so I can't really remember most parts of it. But then Fiorentina did hold most of the possession for the match, and I think a lot of the passes. So it's to a certain extent, it's as David Moyes of a performance as you can get. I mean,
housing his way to a trophy. Sure.
Here's a stat for you. Like, West Ham won 12 matches en route to becoming Conference League champions. They only won 11 in the Premier League. Yeah, so
just wow.
Nice stat.
So that dichotomy of
the
West
duality.
Ham. The duality of West Ham. It's quite hilarious to see. But this goes back to what I say. Like, finals are always going to be KG affairs, right? Rarely are you going to see some like
free flowing, expensive
kind of football.
Unless you're Barcelona 2011. So yeah.
So, but that's why when I guess it's all about picking your spots, and West Ham pick their spots, and at the right time, like you said, 90th minute, for you to come out and find the winner, and that's, if anything, that shows you a champion's mentality, like how a champion is supposed to approach these kind of matches, and like they came out on top.
Okay, Roy, what do you think? How did the match play out in your eyes?
It was quite an exciting game for the neutrals.
Yeah,
I agree with Erik. I think Fiorentina was the more dominating team throughout, for sure.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Especially those whip crosses, they were dangerous.
Mm-hmm.
I thought
Amrabat had a great game in the middle, by the way. I think he outshone Declan Rice, but
I thought, it might not be a popular opinion, I thought the penalty given to West Ham was a bit soft. It was handball, but I feel like it's one of those where if you're a West Ham fan, you'll be shouting at the TV, but ref, that's a penalty. But if you're a Fiorentina fan, you'll be like, nah, no way.
Yeah.
And without VAR, I don't think that would be, I think more often than not, that would not have been given.
Yeah.
I didn't think Byrne was in particularly advantageous positions. Hard to tell where the ball might have landed, but I thought Fiorentina's player's hand wasn't really outstretched, and it just kind of unlucky that it hit his hand.
Yeah.
Which penalty was more contentious? The one against Grealish in the FA Cup final, or this one in the Conference League?
Grealish one, I feel like, because the ball was travelling into the penalty area, where, yes, it could be a potential attacking opportunity for United, even though I don't think there was many players in there.
Yeah.
But this one, I just felt it was a bit soft, and it kind of just brushed across the hand, whereas Grealish was a bit more obvious for me.
Okay.
So this one, for me, was a bit more questionable. But fair play to West Ham. They had to take her away, and it was a great pen. When it was 1-1, KG, and like you said, Bowen took the opportunity. I thought it was a clinical finish. He looked up, slotted in when it matters, and I think it's quite a nice fairy tale ending looking likely for Declan Rice to win a trophy with West Ham
and depart as a trophy winning captain.
Exactly.
Right? Yeah. I mean, I was watching it thinking like, West Ham are gonna shithouse their way to this in some way or other, right? But that's unfair, because the actual goal, the winning goal, was actually a really good one. It was a great pass from Paqueta, right, in behind the centre backs, and then Bowen with a lovely finish, and it was just, I mean, it's the kind of goal that you think, if I'm gonna win a cup final, that's the kind of goal I want to score to win it. I don't want it. I mean, yeah, sure, all goals are goals. All goals are equal, but at the same time, I don't really want to shin it into the net from like 3 yards. I want.
You don't want to Chicharito the goal.
Oh, you don't want Chicharito the goal? I mean, he never cared what part of the ball he scored with. Yeah. I think he's the only player that I've ever seen score a goal with the back of his head.
Oh no, Amad Diallo did it as well.
Oh yeah, he did that against AC Milan.
Yes.
Yeah, in that season
Europa
that
League,
we don't talk about. But that was actually, Bowen was probably one of their bright spots. I was surprised that Declan Rice did not have as good a game as I thought he was going to have. He was outshone, as I mentioned, by Amrabat. Fiorentina will be desperately upset with the result, considering they had the balance of possession. They had the... Yeah.
It's two finals, right? They lost. 2 finals this season.
Fiorentina?
Is it they lost to Inter Milan?
Yeah, they lost to Inter, they've lost this, so... Yeah. They're not going to be happy bunnies come the end of the season.
Yep.
But they'll... Yeah, I don't know. Fiorentina is one of those clubs where I've always had a soft spot for them. Goes back to the days of Gabriel Batista.
Yes,
same. that Nintendo jersey.
Yeah, yes. The Nintendo.
I love
that is
jersey.
iconic. I'm probably going to go look for it online after this now. But yeah. So that leaves England with 8 teams in Europe next season. I think they've got Brighton in the conference. No, Aston Villa in the Conference League. The Europa League will have Liverpool, Brighton, and West Ham. Right? And in the Champions League, you'll have Manchester United, Man City, Arsenal, and Newcastle.
Yeah.
So yeah, and the Champions League. What a segue! See, the Champions League. Let's look ahead to the UEFA Champions League final. It will be Manchester City against Internazionale di Milano. I'm sure I'm butchering that, but like Inter Milan. Inter Milan go on to the back of this on a decent run of form. I think they were not in contention for the league title anyway, so they basically coasted to the end of the season. City as well have coasted to the end of their season, and honestly look like they didn't get out of second gear for the FA Cup final. Roy, who's taking this one?
I think it's inevitable that City, unfortunately for you guys, will make the treble this year. I think on paper, not just on paper, they're just too strong. I think it will be.
They're a good team. Yeah.
I know Inter Milan has a strong defense, classic Italians, but I think they'll just be too much. 200. I think Inter peaked at the right time, like you said, but I think City will break them down with the quality that they have, both in midfield as well as Haaland up front. You've got so many options coming off the bench. I just think and they have learned the lessons from previous Champions League finals. I think the motivations is there. They just look like a cohesive group to me also.
Yeah.
Not often the case with all the champions or the best teams in the world. And I think Pep has done such a good job to get them as a team playing in a certain style, attacking football, attractive football. Even though I'm a Liverpool fan, I don't normally cheer for a rival team, but I don't actually feel that bad if they do complete the treble because they deserved it. The way they play, they entertain football fans around the world doing so. So for me, I think could just be a dominant game, 2-0, 3-0, without much of a... Okay. I'm not giving much of a chance for Inter Milan. Sorry, boys.
Could be like Barcelona against... when Barcelona won 4-0 1992. Yeah, that was probably the most dominant recent European/Champions League final in history. So, well, okay, Roy's calling it. Yeah, dominant victory for Man City. Farid, what do you think?
I think I won't be surprised if Man City come out tops. But I'm not discounting Inter Milan's team because, okay, my worry with the Inter Milan team is that they are quite an old team.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, you have Dzeko, you have Lukaku, you have Mkhitaryan. Damian is in their defense. These are all very reliable like people for if you're to build out a next generation of teams. Like this is the kind of people they want in the team, but whether they can hold up against Man City and the depth that they have in their squad, I think it's going to be tough. I mean, you can draw parallels with Man United. Man United have Varane, Casemiro, Eriksen, all very
De Gea.
Very experienced players who can hopefully keep a team on the right track. But then with Inter Milan and also, like as great as Serie A teams are, the pace of Premier League teams will always put pressure on them. I mean, you saw it with West Ham against Fiorentina.
Yeah.
Right. You can control as much possession. You can try to stifle the team as much as possible. That one break that you get, they're gonna come after you.
Might cost you the trophy, like as what happened with Fiorentina. Yeah. Okay.
And I think one of the recaps for the FA Cup final said it best in terms of like the way Pep has set up his Man City team. If you want to sit deep and defend, their midfield is gonna pick you apart. If you want to play a high line, Haaland is gonna destroy your back line because he's just gonna play one straight up to him and then he's gonna get the ball and he's gonna score.
Either Haaland or Mahrez on the right, and
even Julian Alvarez.
Yeah, Julian Alvarez, all quick. Yeah. Okay.
So it's almost like unless you have a team with as much depth as Man City, so that you can always counter every single game plan that they have. It's almost impossible for you to answer all the questions that they're gonna ask of your team. Because I that's how Man City plays. I feel like they're gonna try A. They say, okay, you stifle A, we're gonna try B. They have a plan A to Z in that team. And like John Stones is their, at one point in time in the FA Cup final, was their most creative midfielder.
Yeah.
Right. You isolate De Bruyne, okay, good. You isolate the wingers, good. Gundogan, you managed to quieten him a bit, and then suddenly John Stones is here, like almost like doing a better job than Casemiro of like controlling the midfield pace. So then where do you go from there?
Yeah.
Right? And if the moment they score one goal, like at the end of the FA Cup final, Man City had 5 centre backs at the end of the game playing on the pitch. So like how? Like it's almost like that's why like the treble should almost be like a certainty for Man City because you have such a huge team.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
If Inter was to win How can they do so?
That's the thing. That's what I want to know. Like, can any of you see a way that Inter wins?
Yeah. So if they can somehow absorb all that pressure, like just sit deep and like just let them restrict them to pot shots. Gundogan doesn't find the target. Then you play that one long ball down. Lukaku hits the ball onto Martinez, and Martinez gets through on goal. That's how they score.
Well, I wasn't expecting a play-by-play how they win, but
no, because like I think in terms of the Brazilian goalkeeping setup, I think Alisson is still favoured ahead of Ederson for very specific reasons, and you've seen the goal that Ederson concedes. He is quite still suspect in terms of just being a good goalkeeper. It's just that he has a world-class defense in front of him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. What do you think? Is that the only way? Is that the only way Inter can win, Roy?
I think they certainly need a little bit of luck. I just don't see any scenario where Inter plays better than Man City in over 90 minutes. Bit of luck, maybe park the bus, like you said, and City just couldn't break through for 120 minutes. And then when it comes to penalty shootout, any team can win. Okay. I think that's their best chance.
Okay. Well, our panel here has gone for Man City to win. I'm gonna go with Inter Milan. Because I clearly don't know football. And we're looking on paper the squads. Like obviously on paper, clearly it's in City's favour. But then again, if we just judge football based on what's on paper, then the game wouldn't be half as fun as it would be, would it? So I'm gonna go for Inter Milan to win purely because I can't have City winning the treble. See, I was happy with Jose winning the treble with Inter back in 2010 because that stopped Barcelona, right? But this time round, Inter, please, Inter Milan, please. Okay. All right, guys, we're gonna wrap it up right here. We are done with our look back at the Cup finals as well as looking forward to the UEFA Champions League final. That's going to be happening this weekend. Gosh, I mean, the football season's coming to an end, guys. Like the European football season is coming to an end. And but that doesn't mean that the fun stops at Kickoff by Zuju. There will be a huge update coming to our app next week, as well as related community challenges for both the Singaporean League and the Major League Soccer. I was going to say the MLS, but it's like Major League Soccer. Okay, so stay tuned for that. My thanks to Roy. My thanks to Farik. Thank you guys for coming on the show today. I've been Rafi, and we'll see you guys in the next one.
See ya.